Hello, everyone. Oh, yeah. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to the One Bitcoin Show. Today is obviously the 4th of July, 2019. Strong hand. Be a unique beast. Value your wealth in Bitcoin. Offended by selling. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. The 5-digit realm. Okay, always be learning. And we're going to learn a lot today. So I was going to finish my fast. Everybody's heard I was going to finish my fast at 1:24 today. And then I didn't. And then I was like, I better do the show in a fasted state still, like 87 hours into a fast. And I'm starting to prep for the show. And Andy, he sent me a DM. And I was like, do you want to be on the show? Are you around? And he was around. So like, bam, spur of the moment show with Andy Hoffman as the guest. Wasn't planned at all. So who knows what the heck we're going to talk about. But I knew, July 4th, you have a special show. Last year, we had the guys from Venezuela on. This year, we're having Andy on. So pound that like button. I know some of you are going to have questions for Andy too. So you can ask questions and I'll try to get to them and everything. I do want to say, so it's obviously 4th of July, and you're like, well, why aren't you wearing your I got a Bitcoin shirt under here, okay? And I'm going to take this shirt off now, but always on the 4th of July, I wear this shirt. And I've been doing this for years, actually, wearing this shirt. This was my father's shirt, actually, and it shrunk because he was a bigger guy than I was, and it shrunk over time. And I only wear this shirt on 4th of July and September 11th. So I had to get my 4th of July wearing in of this shirt. And I mean, there's so many great memories because I used to have huge parties on my roof. There's like a black spot right there. You can see it from the tar on my roof. It got so hot one summer when we were partying up there that the tar started melting. It was from another roof that wasn't done very well. We were running across, it's row houses in Baltimore. We got people, girls, guys, all sorts of people getting tar all over them. And so it didn't go away. And this is a reminder. But under this shirt, and we're going to get to Andy, don't worry. Under this shirt, of course, and you can see in the picture for this, I made a picture of my dad and I for this video in the little preview, and he's wearing this shirt and you can see me as a little kid. For those of you who like seeing me as a little kid when I had a bowl haircut, and you can see my dad when he was gloriously young. So this shirt was just sent to me. A bunch of new Bitcoin shirts, was sent to a relative or at an undisclosed location, and I had to pick them up. And so here you go. Here's a new one. The dude who sent me the shirt, he sells the shirts at a site it's linked to below. First of all, it's like a Bitcoin with a bunch of nodes around it. That's what it is there? I'll try to focus on that. But I just want to say the name of the site before we start talking to Andy. I'm sure Andy's very excited. He wants to buy a 4th of July shirt now and a Bitcoin shirt. What is the name of this site? Hang on. And Andy is linked to below for those of you who are not familiar. Oh my God. Where is the link is below. I already linked to the guys below, but I do just want to say the correct name before we start. And then now this is everyone's Lightning. What is this? Lightning Hood. Lightninghood.com. Thank you. And someone sent me Bitcoin, I think on July the 2nd. Very generous donation. Thank you for all the support. Thank you, dude, who sent me Bitcoin. You value your wealth in Bitcoin. I do. I mean, I really appreciate when you do send me Bitcoin. Super chats are great. Any type of support. There's all sorts of links below. So now and tomorrow, Friday, 11 a.m. Baltimore time is This Week in Bitcoin. So we got all of that out of the way. This is what Adam looks like in the middle of at the end of an 87-hour fast. Who knows how long this thing will be up? But all the energy to pound it. So Andy, how you doing, man?
Well, I'm good. I was going to say, I hope you don't starve to death because of this impromptu show, but it doesn't look like I think you'll make it through the extra hour.
No. I figured that getting you on the show too, because we talk so naturally together. I don't have to do as much prep, so I think I'm going to actually save a little time by having you on the show, even if the show goes longer. Because I mean, there's so much to talk about. So people out there, oh God, it's in our space. Even when a personality isn't trying to be a personality, people become obsessed with personalities. Now, there are people like Jim Jones over at a fake Bitcoin. We're not even going to name it. Who wants to be a big personality? But then there are personalities who just gain. I mean, people, they become controversial and people follow them and people make a big deal out of them. And you're one of them. You're a guy who, I mean, You don't care if you have a channel, or you don't have a channel, or if you have a Twitter feed, or you don't have a Twitter feed. You're not trying to, you don't want the attention coming flying toward you. But it has, because you sold the Bitcoin and now you bought the Bitcoin back. And people go, whoa, what's this all about? So elaborate a little bit on what's going on here with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not a matter of seeking attention. It's been a business of mine to be a public figure for 20 years, more than 20 years, back when I was on Wall Street, first in the energy sector, then in the mining sector, the bullion sector, Bitcoin, and now in consulting in some of the old coins. And actually, it's just the two that everyone knows me for, which is B-Rhodium and MWC, which we'll talk about in a second. But no, I'm not looking for controversy. I was one of the early people speaking from January 2016 about buying Bitcoin. That's when I bought it, and I told people to buy it. And I have believed in it as much as anybody. And when I did wind up selling my position, it just as the Hoffman line broke in November, it was well documented, my reasoning. It wasn't giving up on Bitcoin. I had made great profits in it, and I was protecting my future. At the same time, I had my position to be Rhodium, which I believed in. And I also didn't even have the MWC project that came around afterward, which is an added bonus because I believe so strongly in that too. And as we went through the bear market, it went down to 3,000 and came back, recaptured the Hoffman line, went above it, defended it successfully at the time of the Binance hack, when the price literally went down to exactly 100 billion market cap. And I've gained confidence back in it again. I've also gained more confidence in the projects that I'm doing. And so I thought it was time to re-enter the Bitcoin itself. I think everyone should have a position in it. I never had anything negative to say about it. It was just a matter of personal financial preference. I'm older than most people and have different financial goals than a lot of the younger people in the space. But I'm in it in a big way, in 3 different ways. And I couldn't be more bullish about Bitcoin or the future of cryptocurrency. I think it's literally going to usurp use cases in all sorts of financial realms, from stocks to bonds, currencies, precious metals, and other parts of our society that people aren't even thinking about just yet.
Okay, so you always loved Bitcoin, but you had to take care of some fiat stuff. But then you got back for the family, and now it was just 10,000 like snapped it into your mind, basically. Like this is the time to get back in. I mean, like people want to know the real reason behind getting back in now. What was because you could have gotten back in below where you sold, but why weren't you comfortable back then to get back in? You know?
Well, I mean, when it was below where I sold, I mean, then it was plummeting. I mean, it went from 6,000 to 3,000. And again, I have a financial future to take care of, and I can't take a risk that, let's say, Tone Vays' prediction of 1,300 is right. I don't have the same prospects in the mainstream world for getting paid as I used to. And if crypto collapsed for whatever reason, I would have less earnings power. So I had to protect myself. And now, now things are a lot better for me in a lot of different fronts. So I decided to come back in. I don't have the same size position, but I do have positions in 2 very big projects that I feel very good about. So I think that I'm covered on all fronts and still have a big cash position. That's all. Now,
so it was basically a confidence thing. You did not. You were worried that it was going to drop to nothing. That you could be completely. You're financially ruined. So 10,000 really got the confidence back in your head.
It was risk management. It wasn't fear of Bitcoin. It was proper risk management for someone in my position. That's all. And I made it clear, but if anyone says you did this, I mean, when people say stuff about what I did, I'm like, didn't you read what I said? I didn't say I lost faith in Bitcoin. I didn't say I lost money and everything. I just was protecting profits and looking at my situation in the world. And I explained it. I mean, the dollar isn't going away. It's going to be slowly, fiat currency slowly being replaced over time, but very slowly. I'm not really worried just yet about holding fiat currency. So I have more fiat currency than I've ever had. But at the same time, I also have as much leverage to the crypto market as I've ever had. So I couldn't be happier.
Now, so you see, Andy and I, we could be friends and everything, but we definitely have different perspectives. So you're saying you value your wealth in fiat, but what do you think of the guys like me? Do you think we're crazy to just be totally into Bitcoin? Like just want more and more and more Bitcoin?
Well, you know me, and everyone who knows me knows how much I'm as into crypto as anything. I mean, I have position in Bitcoin. I have big positions in B Rhodium, and I'm as leveraged to the MWC situation as I can get. And I do expect to have more Bitcoin in the future. I just don't yet believe the world is to say, the statement of value, wealth, and Bitcoin. I'm not really sure how to interpret it, because if you need money to pay for things, then you can't, because the world doesn't accept Bitcoin as payment. You ultimately are paying in fiat. If you don't need money anytime soon, or you're not worried about the state of your money, then of course value it in Bitcoin. Look, for years I talked about valuing your wealth in gold, but ultimately when you need to sell it, what's the price in fiat dollars? And since you have a long-term time frame, sure, value your wealth in Bitcoin. Gather as much as you can. I think it's great.
Well, I'm saying you are partially using dollars now as a savings mechanism. It is your backup. I'm saying, what do you think? For me, my entire backup and my savings mechanism is Bitcoin. That's a good way of explaining my valuing my wealth in Bitcoin.
I was like that for a time. I mean, when I sold it, my liquid net worth was a huge percentage of in Bitcoin, and I didn't think, given my situation. And again, it's not that's a bad situation. It's just I'm older and I have a family to take care of, and a future that's a lot nearer than other people's retirement. It was just a matter of risk management. But if I was younger and I didn't have as much responsibility, sure, I would continue it. But I saw the volatility and just executed proper risk management. There was a time, and one of the great things about Bitcoin is that it has changed my view of the world in general. I know I spent decades, like 2 decades, worrying about the collapse of everything, the collapse of economies, the collapse. And I wasn't a doom peddler, as you would say, but I was worried that the dollar was going to collapse and economies are going to collapse and everything's going to collapse. But I don't have that pessimism anymore. And a big reason for it is because of Bitcoin. I think it's going to help transition the world into a better place. At the same time, I also have, reduced my worriness, or whatever the word is, about the dollar just collapsing anytime soon. So I feel it's okay to have some, as an older person, some of your savings in dollars, not necessarily weaker currencies. But I also have a very big leverage position in crypto. So I think I'm in good shape. But if I were younger, and I would probably have even more of a percentage in crypto than I do now.
Yeah. Yes. Excellent. Pound that like button. Well, with the long-term perspective on these altcoins that you're holding, would you how would you cash out? Would you cash out into Bitcoin with them? And I'm not saying just down the road, or cash out into cash.
Well, I think I've always it's a balance. You always look at where the world is at any time, but I've always thought of my goal of one day having more Bitcoin than I started with. I mean, that's what, again, there was never anything about what I've done that had to do with being negative about Bitcoin. And I do believe I will be acquiring more over time. Maybe it will be from the sales of altcoins. Maybe it will be from other purchases of Bitcoin. But I do, it's not a matter of I will only do one or the other. It really depends on where things are in life. But I do expect at some point to have, my goal is to have more Bitcoin than I started with. And I think I will get there.
There you go. So you do value your wealth, and you value some of the wealth in Bitcoin. Definitely.
Some of it, yes. But I wouldn't, again, when you say, there was a time where I used to say value your wealth in gold, because I thought gold was going to be the standard of the world. I changed my view on that. Now I think Bitcoin is going to be the standard of the world currency. But at the same time, I'm not worried that the dollar will collapse like I once was. So I have different views about, quote, how to value my wealth. But I certainly will never own precious metals again, and I intend to have more Bitcoin over time.
All right, I want to read some things from the chat. OPSEC Classified sent $1. Planet, thank you, dude. And I'll read what you said in a second. Planet Musk Vlog sent $4.99. At first, it was American independence. Now it's financial independence for individuals with Bitcoin. Happy fourth strong hand. Well, thank you for the $4.99, Planet Musk. And I hope you're enjoying your many Teslas. And OPSEC also said, my friend Adam, the Bitcoin Meister, come to the West. You can stay at my house and we can tour and meet and greets about Yes, of course. I'd love to visit you in 2020. My schedule frees up. Let's stay in touch about this. Let's see if there are any other questions out there. There were no, I thought people would have questions for Andy. You guys can, oh, wait, Roman Q said Bitcoin is true risk-free asset. Measure your wealth in Bitcoin. I like it, man. Value your wealth in Bitcoin. Measure your, I'm just trying to get more of them, baby. I'm just trying to get more. So, Andy, we got the halving coming up in May of 2020. Any thoughts on that? Have you thought about it lately? You're very busy with altcoins, and we're going to get into that in a second. But what's your perspective on the Bitcoin halving?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm only busy with 2 coins.
Yes.
I spend all my time with Bitcoin, Rhodium, and MWC, and we're going to finish by talking a lot about MWC since we're so close to the airdrop. But the halving, look, Litecoin's having its halving in a month or so. It was discounted by the market in advance, and Litecoin is still trading at about 1% of Bitcoin. I mean, that's what it trades at, 1% of Bitcoin. It had its pump when everything pumped in January of 2018. Charlie Lee sold, and we've been at 1% of Bitcoin. So I think the Litecoin halving had its effect, came and gone, and now we're past it, and now we're going to look forward to the Bitcoin halving. The only issue with the Bitcoin halving is the fact that it's so well telegraphed. So you could easily say, well, we just discounted it right now. The price just went from 5,000 to 15,000, 14,000 in a matter of weeks, or maybe it didn't, because it's another, 8 or 9 months away. So, and again, with the halving, it's a very well telegraphed event. Everyone knows it's coming. Its impact short term in the markets, it's hard to tell, but of course, over the longer term, it's going to make it more scarce. And that's the whole point of halvings. The price of Bitcoin has gone up over time, and there have been halvings over time, and there's definitely a correlation between the two.
Here's something that's big that's been going on these last few weeks that not that many people are talking about. Bitcoin dominance is at 63.1%. These altcoins, in terms of Bitcoin, their price is still going up in dollars every few days. But in terms of Bitcoin, they're getting destroyed. There are so many top tier altcoins that are being destroyed in terms of Bitcoin. I mean, like it or not, I know a lot of people don't like Bcash, but it's getting destroyed in terms of its Bitcoin value. Same with BSV. Do you think this is going to continue for a while? Will there be alt season again?
Right, and this is a topic we should explore at length. Yes, when the bear market settled in last year, it basically hung around 50% the entire year, Bitcoin dominance, for whatever reason. I think there was still a lot of people clinging to hopes about a lot of these altcoins, especially the top tier altcoins, that they're going to do something. But as I said from day one, and you said, 95% of them have no reason to be here. There's so many coins that were simply created out of the hype of Ethereum. Look, Ethereum had its hype in June of 2017 because of the Bitcoin debate, the scaling debate. And everyone's, Ethereum's going to take over. And then you had the second wave after SegWit, where just a flood of money came in, and there was a whole bunch of pumping up schemes and forks and ERC tokens, and people just didn't care. They were buying anything. But the fact is, 95% of them from day one had no use case. So of course, in time, there's only. It's so funny that we spent so much time worrying about, say, Bcash, when you just look at it and you go, there probably has never been a Bcash transaction other than to speculate, like buy it and sell it. Never, ever, ever. And then you get one like Satoshi's Vision, which is even worse. It makes Bcash look good. And then I look at Ethereum. I follow this space as much as you and anyone. I still don't understand why Ethereum needs to be worth $30 billion. It's just a platform for making other tokens, and anyone could do that too. So you go down the line, and there's just so few out there that are worth anything. And yes, we could have another alt season where all of a sudden money floods back into altcoins because people just get speculative investments. But I think there's just going to be a lot more discernment this time around. One, because people got so burned in it, and two, because there's, more importantly, the whole point of the Hoffman line is smarter money is going to be entering the space now. Institutions and bigger crypto hedge funds are going to come in and look at what they're actually investing and saying, why do we have Bcash? What, just because it's liquid? No, they're going to look for things that actually are adding value. And that's why the 2 coins that I'm spending my time in, I'm so excited about, because as I say, they have, in my view, viable, defensible use cases. Because again, look, Adam, do you really believe,
Yeah.
that all of the money that comes into crypto is going to be a new paradigm in the world. And
Yes.
all of it's going to go into Bitcoin and Bitcoin related. There's nothing else that will survive.
No. They're going to be. You said that there's a lot of
Yes.
smart money is going to come in. It's going to make smart decisions. I think some of that smart money isn't as smart as they think they are, and they're just going to diversify for the sake of diversification.
Oh, yes, that may happen. They may happen. Yes.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a huge. Just like last time when a lot of new money came in, there'll be people that just want to have the next Bitcoin, that they're used to diversifying for the sake of diversification. So there will be some altcoins pumping just on complete nonsense, just because they got a good marketing team, they got a good story, and people are like, well, that one sounds good. It's on Coinbase. It must be professional. It must be top tier. We're going to just buy into it because we need to have a diversified portfolio for the people that we're buying for. Because sadly enough, there are going to be so many new people entering, but they're not going to be really entering themselves. They're going to let somebody else manage the whole darn thing for them. And because of that, because of people's natural tendency, or they're used to the stock market, people managing their whole portfolio, that they're going to come into this space with that same mentality. So that will help. That will help altcoins. That the people's foolish need for people to manage their wealth and to diversify for the sake of diversification. That's not what this space is about for me. You got to control your own wealth here. But that's step one. But most people are gonna step.
But again, what's going to happen, Adam, is we're talking about cryptocurrency becoming a major asset class. I mean, not only is it becoming a major asset class just because it's so great, but as I said, I think a lot of the things that current asset classes, major classes do, crypto will do better. I really think, I've written about this many times, stocks and bonds are archaic institutions when you look at them, as is fiat currency in many ways. Fiat currency is not about to die yet, but it is going to become slowly but surely obsolete in the world of crypto. And then, of course, precious metals, which are useless in this world, and many other things. So there are going to be uses for cryptocurrency that are not Bitcoin. I mean, there are going to be some uses because there's just so much money that's going to come in and so many applications out there. And at the same time, you're going to have, as you said, people will diversify, and some will do it foolishly and some will do it smartly, because there will be smart things to diversify it. But for the most part, there will be a lot of money coming in. It will not all go into Bitcoin, but most of it will.
Your point saying there are going to be other use cases for crypto, and that's why Ethereum has value. I mean, because building ICOs or building IEOs or building, I was messing around with the that Fork Delta site, which allowed me to get the Serenium crypto dividend of Bitcoin, which is going to be something like the BHEX thing if he ever does the BHEX thing. Anyway, you could program stuff on Ethereum that involves cryptocurrency, and that's what it does. And who knows what it's going to be able to do in the future. And that's why it has value, because nobody knows what it's going to be able to do in the future. And there are people that say, well, you'll be able to program on top of Bitcoin with second layer solutions. And sure you will. But right now you can. Clearly Ethereum, like it or hate it, you can do ICOs and IEOs and EIEIOs on Ethereum right now. So, I mean, that's why it does have some value, because of people's future.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree Ethereum has value, but it's to me a commodity. I think others, yes, it has a network effect. I think that it's going to be hard to defend that niche at $30 billion plus. Then again, if so much money is coming flying into the space, it could be worth 200 billion for all we know. I mean, it did get to 100 billion once, so you never know. Yeah,
it's going to get there again. I mean, it's for this. If the way the future is, that cryptocurrency is, I mean, again, Bitcoin is going to be the king, but the whole space, as you said, there are going to be people diversifying for the sake of diversifying. There are going to be other options. There are going to be privacy coins. There are going to be for it to be like the way we're predicting things. Ethereum has to be over 100 billion. It has to be over the Hoffman line. It has to be for this to be a successful. I mean, and that says that because and Bitcoin, who knows how far ahead it'll be by that point. But for the space to get as professional and the mainstream as we're saying, Ethereum, I mean, like it or hate it, people, Ethereum will have to be over the Hoffman line forever. But whatever, that you don't have to. If somebody else's coin or a coin you don't like is doing well, who cares? Ignore it. Personal responsibility is the new counterculture. You'll be in Bitcoin. So I think that's a lot of the people in the space, when they see you talking about something like MWC, they go, well, how can he talk about something else? How is he disloyal to Bitcoin? Don't worry about it, people. You hold your Bitcoin, and Andy's going to do what he's. You don't have to follow Andy. You don't have to listen to Andy at all. But again, when we're talking MWC, that is the way it is being distributed. I love that because it encourages Bitcoin holders to hold, to have stronger hands. Something that eventually these big financial people are going to realize. They don't realize it yet, that you can get interest on your Bitcoin through the crypto dividend process, through forks, through airdrops. I'm sure there are many big people on Wall Street who have interest in Bitcoin who do not know what an airdrop is at all and don't know that you can get this privacy coin that you can eventually turn into Bitcoin. So I have no problem with what talking up something like MWC. It's great because in the long run, it's being, and I want all altcoins in the future to be distributed that way. I think that is the best way in the world to distribute. So for all the altcoin haters out there, but if you're a Bitcoin holder, you shouldn't be an altcoin hater if it's being distributed in that manner, at least. And I do hope that MWC and other ones, set the example. I hope it does real well so that other altcoins do the same thing, because I enjoy getting interest from just holding my Bitcoin and doing nothing with my Bitcoin. It's great.
Right. And again, you talk about the two coins I'm involved in. We'll start. B-Rhodium was the first real airdropped crypto dividend. I mean, there have been airdrops before,
Bitcore.
like Bitcore, which wasn't like what an IPO, was just a secondary distribution to bring interest into it. But B-Rhodium was the first one to actually distribute primarily as a crypto dividend airdrop to Bitcoin holders, and that's why I liked it so much. As it turns out, a year and a half later, they've done everything I could possibly imagine that I wanted them to do. So I'm really excited about their future because I do believe it's one of the few defensible niche use cases. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, I'm all into that because I believe in it very strongly. Now, off of the heels of the B-Rhodium, Chris Gilliard saw how that was distributed and saw a better way for Bitcoin and holders to be invested in the Mimblewimble technology, which he was one of the first people to understand. Mimblewimble is, I mean, you've been around the shows long enough to have heard of it, and you know that you've heard a lot of smart people talk about how big it is. I remember all my time in the World Crypto Network hearing about it, but not quite sure what it was until Chris, upon your introduction in January, told me about it, and I was kind of blown away by what he says, because what it comes down to is current Bitcoin blockchain technology works. It works fine, but it's inferior blockchain protocol to what Mimblewimble will bring, because Mimblewimble will, 1, be private, 2, make it 100% fungible, and 3, far more scalable, which is why he, as a quote Bitcoin maximalist, believes very strongly that it will ultimately be incorporated into Bitcoin and make Bitcoin much more valuable, kind of like when SegWit was incorporated into Bitcoin. It automatically became much more valuable. As it turns out, now that I'm watching the space, Grin and Beam came out in January. The white paper was only, our registration ends on the 19th, which will be the 3-year anniversary of the white paper for Mimblewimble. So it's only a 3-year-old technology, and you only have had these 2 coins that have been trading since January. So it's a very nascent technology, but it's really going to change crypto completely, including Bitcoin. The problem with these 2 coins are Grin has unlimited supply, and Beam has 263 million of supply, and it looks very much like a corporation. I'm not nothing against them, but from an investment, it looks to me more like a Ripple, like a corporation. I have no interest in that. So Chris said, look, I can help build this technology as fast as those other teams with my team. At the same time, I'm going to give it to Bitcoin holders. I'm going to give a HODL dividend like B-Rhodium has, meaning if you hold it and you don't sell it, you'll get dividends for years to come. And I'll only have a 20 million supply cap, and half of that won't be mine for the next 100 years. So it's going to be scarce, pay a dividend, be given out for free. And so far, it's already shown that it has as much ability to grow the technology as the 2 coins out there. And so we have about 2 weeks left before you can register your Bitcoin. We've gone through great pains to make sure that all the errors that were made in that pioneering B-Rhodium airdrop from both the developers and user side won't happen to you. And claim your coins, because this is going to be a major coin in our view by the end of the year when it launches.
The whole process is easier than the B-Rhodium. You guys did make it better this time around. I want to ask about how many Bitcoin have been registered last time you talked to Chris. Do you know?
Yeah, it was 33,000. I mean, it's a big opportunity because, again, It's not first come first serve. You can register the day before the snapshot on July 19th, and you can also register. You can be a super whale and register 50,000 Bitcoin. It's just a matter of 6 million of the 20 million supply will be distributed, and the amount is depending on how much is registered. Right now, only 33,000 are registered.
So that means it's going to everybody. If it stayed at 33,000, that everyone would get about 180 MWC for every Bitcoin they registered. My prediction is that you're going to get 60,000 registrations, and thus 6 million divided by 60,000 is 100, and every Bitcoin would get you 100 of them. But we shall see. I think there will be, as you get closer to date, more and more people are going to register because they know that if you move around your Bitcoin, you can mess things up with the change addresses. So some people are waiting till the last minute to register.
Yeah, and what it comes down to is, all that matters is how much Bitcoin are in those registered addresses at the time of the July 19th snapshot. So if you registered an address that had 1 Bitcoin, and you put in 1,000 more on July 18th, well, you have 1,001 registered, period. If you registered 1,000 Bitcoins in July, but then you sent someone a quarter Bitcoin from your Trezor, and it went to a change address and you forgot, you might have 0. Of course, you can validate on our website, say you can put in the address and you say, oh, okay, that coin has 0. Oh, that address is 0. Or, oh, that address has 100 Bitcoin on it. But just make sure you do it in time. There's no reason not to, because not only is this a free crypto dividend, but it really has the potential. I mean, I've said very publicly, I believe that the three, I call it the Mimblewimble Trinity, Grin, Beam, and now MWC, I think that they should be worth somewhere around what Monero is worth by a year from now, because it's a superior privacy technology. You know, Monero has its followers, it always will, but the fact is that Mimblewimble, when it's fully developed, will be a far superior privacy technology than to anything out there.
Well, and it's clear that the market lately, and not many people, I mentioned this a couple of times, that Grin and Beam have pumped lately. So again, that type of technology is getting toward, you can call it flavor of the month, you can call it whatever, but maybe the market is realizing that is the best privacy technology. Again, let them compete. Let's see if Zcash is the best. Let's see if Monero is the best.
No, Zcash is not.
Okay, I mean, exactly. That might be part of what's going on, that some of the people that were invested in Monero and Zcash are now buying those other two, and they don't yet know there's going to be a third. Hopefully they will know for us Bitcoin holders.
I think Zcash is way behind even Monero, and Zcash is 700 something million market cap. To me, that's low hanging fruit for the Mimblewimble Trinity. Again, we talk about how altcoins have generally not done very well this year, because Bitcoin dominance has been surging. But as I wrote today, and I have many times, the Mimblewimble coins have probably been the best performing sector in the entire crypto space, better than Bitcoin, better than anything in a percentage. So think about that. You can get a free version of probably, in our view, the best version of this coin simply by registering in the next 2 weeks.
Now, again, it's mwc.mw. I want to read a couple comments. This is from Robert Hardebeck, who I met in person in Long Beach. He said, hello, Andy. You helped me get out of silver and into Bitcoin. Bob from Long Beach. Yeah, okay. Mr. Barefoot Barry, who he sends me shirts too. Thank you, Barefoot Barry. He says, in 2017, I lost over 2 Bitcoin in ICOs. Oh, dude, you should have been paying closer attention to this show. I was telling everyone, don't mess. I'll never do that again. Well, at least you learned. Strong hand. BTC. Let's see if there probably are some other comments here before we're going to talk about the Mimblewimble technology in a second, because OpSec Classified said Bitcoin Meister, value your wealth in Bitcoin. All other altcoins have CEOs. Bitcoin is the only true crypto, in my opinion. That's a good opinion there. Okay, let's talk about the Mimblewimble technology. And you and Chris have both said that, well, you specifically said it's good to get this for free because we could see in the future that this might be implemented into Bitcoin. It's good to see how good it's going to be, and it is true. If we could test it out and see if maybe this should be incorporated into Bitcoin. Right now, as everyone knows, I do not think the MWC technology will be put into the base layer of Bitcoin. But you and Chris both think it will. Now, again,
why don't you think that, Adam?
Because putting a privacy in the base layer is going to turn off a lot of people to Bitcoin, the regulators and whatnot. And and first of all, to incorporate Mimblewimble into Bitcoin right now, you need a hard fork, and there's not going to be a a consensus hard fork saying, okay, this is the real Bitcoin that people were forking Mimblewimble into. It's just the way it is. I mean, we saw what happened with Bcash. The grand majority said, well, Bitcoin is the real Bitcoin. If someone were to attempt this with Mimblewimble, making Bitcoin Mimblewimble on the base level, it would be the same thing. I mean, you'd have this new Bitcoin Mimblewimble, I guess it would be called, but it wouldn't be the real Bitcoin.
BMW. That's what we were going to call it first. BMW. And we didn't want to get sued.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there are legitimate reasons, and people will bring it up, why there shouldn't be privacy in the base layer, because that could hurt the value of Bitcoin. If it's optional in second layer solutions, I think that's the way it's going to go.
And that may well be the case. I mean, what Chris is saying is he believes it will make Bitcoin much more valuable, and that's a debate. And again, he also doesn't believe this is going to be a near-term event. It'll take time for it to be fully tested and for the mainstream financial community to join in, because again, I mean, you know that this is not about regulators. Ultimately, regulators don't manage the growth of Bitcoin. They are certainly to be watched, but ultimately, we're talking about down the road. Will the Bitcoin community believe that it's better for them or not? And we'll see. It will take time to happen, and yes, it does require a hard fork, but it will take time for that consensus to build of whether that is required. And you know what? If it's not, then it will simply be by far the best privacy technology out there, which means that the Mimblewimble Trinity coins will do amazing on their own. That's why it's so great as a Bitcoin holder to have it, because it's like a hedge. In case it does something that threatens Bitcoin, you win. In case it makes Bitcoin better, you win. In case it just becomes a great technology on its own, you win. And it's all for free.
Yes. All right. Let me see. There were other comments. There were other questions I had here. Okay. Long-term Bitcoin thoughts from you. Moving back to Bitcoin. Just will it remain number one? Will it remain the king? And when do you see mainstream adoption?
Well, of course it will be the king, because its head start is so far ahead of everyone else, and there's just no way that it's kind of like the virgin birth. It happened once; it will never happen again, and it's going to grow and grow and grow. At the same time, it's my view that we're entering a digital age. So I don't really like to call it a Bitcoin revolution. I call it a crypto revolution. I think the technology is going to usurp so much of what the world has depended on. Bitcoin is the leader of that technology and will be the leader for generations, possibly. And so I have full faith, more faith than ever, in the growth of the space. And that's why that's all I do and talk about and think about is the growth of the space. I just invest in it a little differently than some other people do, but I've done very well in it, and I expect to continue to do well because I believe the space will continue to grow.
Now, one question I forgot to ask about altcoins that pertains to the recent Bitcoin pump. Could part of this Bitcoin pump, I was thinking about this the other day, that some altcoin people have just totally thrown in the towel, but want to stay in crypto, so they're just cashing in for Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, yeah, there's definitely people who are exhausted from altcoins, especially now that it's been a time where altcoins haven't done well. But I think the bigger issue here is it's not specifically the Hoffman line, but it was so important that it showed a level of support where institutional capital can come in. And I think the world is convinced that Bitcoin is here to stay. So some people are just exhausted from what they're in. A lot of altcoins have been very scary, and yeah, some people just want to be in, but they'd rather have less volatility, which is great. So Bitcoin is the perfect investment for them. Okay,
now recently, some people have been very happy about gold because it went up $100 or something like that. Since you know a lot about gold, any thoughts on the one thing you could derive from the gold pump and is that there are some people that are fleeing to safety. At the same time, Bitcoin is pumping. So now is Bitcoin being looked on as a real flight to safety in terms of people fearing a recession, just like gold had been in the past?
Well, as for gold, it's funny that people would call it a pump. It's up 8% this year. Yeah. It's $1,414. that's where it was many years ago. And on an inflation adjusted basis, it's barely above its all-time low right now. And even worse is silver. I got rid of silver very publicly when I left precious metals, and I said that gold will still have some legacy value. Hence, the name of the company was Crypto Gold Central. But silver is dead. And right now, the gold-silver ratio is at an all-time high. It's like 92. Gold went up to 14 something, and silver is still $15, which is lower than where I sold it when gold was $1,300. So I think silver is just, in a world of crypto and Bitcoin, it's just completely useless. I don't see any monetary value. Gold has some monetary value left because it's the big legacy asset. But when it comes down to it, you're going to see generations of people selling their inheritances of precious metals. I mean, it's going to be decades and decades of people inheriting it from the average gold holder who's probably in his 70s by now and just selling it probably for cryptocurrency. So I see no real upside for precious metals. There was a little bit of a quote pump. It went up 10% because you had between the Federal Reserve saying we're going to lower interest rates and maybe we're going to go to war with Iran, and basically silver did nothing and gold went up 10%. And now they're just settling in. Nothing's really happening. The dollar hasn't really moved. So I don't really see anything. Plus, all the movement in gold is all paper markets now. They're highly diluted. It's not like the investors are buying bullion. No, they're buying futures and they're buying the GLD fund. Bitcoin, but when it comes to Bitcoin, it really goes to the beat of its own drummer. It's growing so spectacularly and so secularly. It really doesn't care what Trump says, or if we're going to fight with Iran, or if there's the Federal Reserve might raise rates or lower rates. It's just crypto is such a huge growth sector that's taking over the world. At times it may look like it, and yes, if the yuan crashes to 7 and below, you're going to see a movement. Because look, the big movement up came when the yuan looked like it was going to crash, and now that they said it settled down, then Bitcoin came down from 14,000 to 10, but it's resuming its upward movement. So I don't really think about it too much about safe haven. I just think it's the new money of the world, and it's going to take some time, but it'll get there.
I want to ask a logistical question about gold. If someone's got a bunch of gold coins and they want to sell it for dollars, they have to go to like some dude. They don't get the price that's listed on the computer, do they? I mean, when you sell it to a dealer.
No, and that's what I worked for years, dealers. And the problem with gold and silver is, yes, you have the market price, which is in the paper markets, but you also have the premium, which is now premium/discount, because different coins have different values. They are not fungible. And that's what's so funny. For years we say, oh, they're fungible because all gold coins. No, all gold coins are not alike, and all silver coins are definitely not alike because there's so many different kinds of them, and you can't even authenticate their weight and how much. It's really kind of a mess. But the point is, because the sector has been so out of favor for so many years, there are less dealers. It's becoming less liquid, and so they're paying less to when you want to sell it back. I mean, someone told me they sold junk silver for like a 15% discount to spot. And really the only thing that you're going to get any kind of premium on is like the best of the best, like a gold or a silver eagle. Anything else now you're lucky to get spot for. And I'm telling you, people, as that sector gets weaker and weaker, there'll be less dealers and it'll be less liquid, and you're going to get less and less from the for your metal. It's just inevitable. That's what has happened and what will happen.
I'm so glad we got to talk about this, because I didn't fully understand that until recently. Someone told me how hard it is, that you really can't get the price that you think, and you have to go through a whole process. Remember, people, with Bitcoin, if you've been storing it on Coinbase, which you shouldn't have been, but if you want to turn it into dollars again, you do it like that. The price they list there is the price you get, and then you get your fiat right like that. It's a very smooth process with no. A Bitcoin in one part of Coinbase is worth the same amount as a Bitcoin in another part of Coinbase. It's not like these gold coins, which are all worth different amounts and need to be inspected, and it takes time, and you're not going to get the price that's listed up there. The whole thing's convoluted and wild. I did not know how it was to actually sell gold. But again, God forbid, if you need to sell your Bitcoin, you get the price that's right there on that's the price. Then you get your fiat. That's it. So it's a For those who
selling precious metals is a nightmare. The only way it's not a nightmare is if you are having it held for you by a custodian, which is even worse because that means that you didn't have control of it in the first place. But for a lot of people, that's the best way of doing it, because otherwise you have to keep it in your house, which is then try to sell it from your house. I did. It wasn't fun.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got that point out. Again, I am no gold fan, people, as you know, and that's a reason why. Right there and then, Bitcoin is living gold's dream. Pound that like button. All right, Andy, we're at the end of the show here. Anything you want to add? Conclusionary remarks, as you love.
Yes, it is a real word. Look, I mean, I'm the biggest crypto bull there is out there. I've also made some changes. And look, when I first bought into Bitcoin, it was a small percentage of my portfolio. It's not my fault that it went from 400 to 20,000 and became a huge percentage of my portfolio. And then there came a point where I had to make further decisions about what I wanted to do with my portfolio, given my age and the profits that I had, and also the opportunities that I saw out there. Look, everyone does things differently. And I think Bitcoin is the greatest invention of our lifetime, that and the internet itself. And cryptocurrency is going to continue growing at an exponential rate, and Bitcoin is going to be the leader. It's that simple. As for me, I'm holding my smaller position in Bitcoin, and I am as excited about the two projects that I'm involved in, Bitcoin Rhodium and now MWC, as anything that I've ever dealt with. And MWC is something that in the next 2 weeks, by July 19th, you as a Bitcoin holder can get free just by going to mwc.mw and registering your public addresses. It's very easy, and you will get something that could be worth a tremendous amount of money in a very short amount of time. Awesome. Good way to wrap it up. Positive stuff. Okay, people, I hope you enjoyed it. There's Andy. All these people asking about Andy. And there weren't that many questions for him. Oh, well, you got to see it. He's on Twitter. He's linked to below. The shirts, the people who gave me the shirts, they're linked to below. So click on all that. Brian, the UK Bitcoin Master, said, pound that like button, people, for the Bitcoin Meister. Thank you, Brian, the UK Bitcoin Master. Remember, tomorrow, 11 a.m. Baltimore time is This Week in Bitcoin right here. And have a happy 4th of July, everyone. I'm Adam Meister. Thank you, Andy, for being on the show. I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video, check out the links below, pound that like button, bang that bell button. See you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Baltimore time. Stay cool tonight, people. Bye-bye.